Greetings everyone, I hope we are all well. This is Lusa Peto bringing you 8 p.m. lights out. While this might be a little awkward if you're listening to this in the dark or anticipating your share of load shedding for the day. In this podcast series, we speak about what load shedding essentially is, as well as how it affects township economies, or retail enterprises rather, in particular. So sit back, relax. This is 8 p.m. lights out, where we shed some light on load shedding by acquainting you with the dark. In this episode, we pick up from where we left off in our conversation with Ms. Zodwa Mabe from the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development.
Townships are inherently marginalized, and it's only post-apartheid that we're seeing a set level of attention being paid to addressing the injustices that are subjected to these areas. So do you think that we're at a stage where townships are stable enough to be able to withstand shocks and vulnerabilities such as those that are posed by load shedding?
Looking at your questions. Only stable enough to stand the shock. No, not really. Not really. I'll tell you why, Elusa. Load shedding is a fairly new phenomenon, ne?
Yes.
And our townships are as old as 1960s, 1970s. You know, they were not built, with load shedding in mind. The infrastructure, I'll tell you, in some areas, even around my area here in Pretoria, some areas we are told they are not load shedded. You know why? Because the infrastructure that they have, they can't they cannot withstand the switching on and off because of the old infrastructure. I'm not sure if am I making sense?
Yes,
So the infrastructure was not built with load shedding. Not load, like I'm saying, when I started, you heard me say load shedding is a new phenomenon. It's a new thing that has recently happened 5 years ago or less. So when the infrastructure was built, it was not built so hence I'm saying that we're not at the stage where our townships are able to withstand. We are very, very, very vulnerable, and it's only now that also government, I'm sure you've seen in some of the townships, they build the houses with the solar geyser panels. I don't know if I'm sure you've seen those. That's only now. That's only recently that government, because now we know we must plan around load shedding. That is part of government planning around load shedding to say, okay, even if you are in a dark, at least you can still use hot water, because the solar panels, you know how they work, they absorb the sun and they keep the water. So now the geyser, because also geyser consume a lot of energy. So if it's on solar panels, it takes little from the grid, from the main grid, So that is that. But also, I think for me, for townships to be able to withstand load shedding, more and more education is needed on us saving energy. If you're not using things like switching off your geysers, not switching on lights in rooms where you're not seated, uh, using only what you need, So that's what I'm saying. Also, our people being educated on saving the little energy that we have, not wasted. Sometimes you hear that people in winter, they just leave the heaters on. That is not saving energy. So those are I'm thinking education can assist, kind of.
Yes. It's just a matter of working together because we know that this is a problem we have, and yeah, just reducing the load to make it better for everyone.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to think you're very knowledgeable on Spluma, as you mentioned earlier on. And so do you think that land use schemes and policy have done and continue to do enough in terms of supporting township retail establishments?
Trying to see which question is that one?
Land use schemes.
Oh, do you think land use scheme and policy have done and continue to do enough in terms of township retail establishments? Please explain. Definitely yes. Definitely yes. Lusa, because you know that land use schemes informs us what can happen when in terms of the uses of land. And you know, when we do land use schemes and your SDFs, you designate areas for certain uses, you know, and that creates order in an establishment, you know. So I think, yes, definitely, like I've said to you that already with the malls that have been established, you know that for one to develop, you need permission from the municipality. If, for example, you see a green field, you must check with the municipality what that piece of land is zoned for. They check through their land use scheme to say, if now whatever use that you want to put in is in line with what the land use scheme says, yes, or it can be, you can apply to rezone that piece of land. And we know because the retail, like your shopping centers, they are a source of employment, definitely. In the municipality, unless I've not had issues whereby people have, or developers have struggled in getting piece of land for retail development. You know, I've not only because, you know, when you apply at a municipality, there's different studies that have to be done before development, especially those big developments, your traffic studies, your environmental impact assessment, you know, all those before, and also engineers, everyone comments to what in a particular development application. So that ensures that whatever development is in line with your bylaws, with your land use scheme and your special development frameworks. So
are you aware of any policies or acts that speak directly to, as you said, load shedding is a new phenomenon, it's unprecedented, it's only recently that it's becoming prominent. So are you aware of any policy or acts that speak directly to empowering or shielding township businesses, those that are still emerging, from load shedding in particular?
Not, I think because, as I've said, you remember when I said load shedding, it's a new phenomenon. Not at this stage. I think as we try to get our feet on the ground, probably it's only now that maybe government is thinking about any policy, you know, that will regulate how, especially in terms of supporting the businesses, you know. I'm not aware of any at this stage, Lusa.
And then based on how townships are established, can you please comment on whether the direction that township landscapes have taken is what was intended by the government that curated these landscapes? And please comment on whether this is essentially a good or a bad thing and why this has been the case.
Like, I think we would have said, you would have heard me saying that townships originally during apartheid government were developed as areas to relegate
People of
non-whites, you know, and now it's only when we have policies like Spatial Planning and Land Use Management Act that says within our planning, we must not only plan for cities, we must plan, our planning must include, I think it's one of the section in Spluma, I'm not sure if it's section 12, where it says our planning must include your informal settlement, your rural areas, your traditional areas, within, hence now Spluma speaks to wall-to-wall land use, land use schemes. Because initially, the land use schemes will focus on the central business districts, on your cities, you know, informal settlements around it, rural areas around it, traditional areas around it were not part of the land use schemes. Now we have Spluma compliant land use schemes, Spluma compliant SDFs, the special development frameworks, because we are saying we must have planning that is inclusive planning. Inclusive planning, I just remembered, inclusive planning. Initially, apartheid planning excluded Black people. And then it's only now that Spluma says inclusive planning, whereby you plan for rural areas within your jurisdiction as a municipality, you plan for your informal settlements, you plan for your traditional areas. But originally, that was not intended. We were just intended to be suppliers of labor to the cities, go back home, live in poverty, come and supply your labor. But Spluma is turning all things around, saying you must plan for all areas within your area of jurisdiction.
Inclusive planning.
Yes.
So looking at the progress that has been made by townships thus far, you mentioned how you see that there's been a lot of development, a lot of investment within these areas, and they've come a long way. So do you see load shedding affecting these typologies and economic spaces in any way to like, I guess, hold them back in a way, for lack of better word, in their development? So what do you think would be the effect of load shedding on the progress that's been made thus far?
I think for me, Lusa, the progress made by township, that's fine. Now, I'm just thinking, now if you're looking for a place to buy a house, you must look properly. Okay, most people look for areas where there's load shedding, less load shedding. I'm told around your hospitals, around your big infrastructures, like where your CETA offices are. CETA carries the IT system of government, you know? So I don't think you would want to buy a house where you don't have electricity for the whole week, you know? And you know, that will determine settlement patterns.
Sure.
I don't know if you, that will, and it will now change the space completely, because now people will want to settle less on those areas where they know. For one good example, if Soweto people hardly have electricity. Do you want to buy a house? As much as Soweto we know, at some stage the property demands were high. Not anymore. I don't think people will shy away. People will move away. And I'm saying, like, now people, when they buy houses, they want to find out, do the little research to say, how is your load shedding affecting you in that area? So definitely, I think settlement patterns will definitely, not only, even businesses, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what, some shopping complexes or some malls have got a centralized generator for the whole complex. So those shops hardly are affected by load shedding. But some malls, each and every individual, you must buy your own generators. And once people leave those rental spaces, no one wants to take over. Instead, people want to move to those malls where they've got a centralized generator system. So can you see what that has resulted in us having a lot of vacancies, building vacancies, where there's no provision for load shedding.
What would you, in your professional capacity, say would be the way forward or propose to be the way forward with regards to load shedding?
I think our government, I think we are where we are because of, I don't know the right way that I want to. I don't know if misjudgment or no, I think poor governance. Yes, that's the word. We are where we are because of poor governance. Because Lusa, if we took good governance, good administration, it's one of the Spluma principles. I don't know if you know it.
I know it.
Good administration, good governance. If we took that very seriously when we got independence from your apartheid government in 1994, I don't think we would be where we are. I'll tell you, because one, we are experiencing load shedding purely because of lack of maintenance of infrastructure. You know, when government was handed to government of national unity, many things were working, you know, and we enjoyed the freedom ride, freedom wave. We forgot that still we must administer things properly. Infrastructure maintenance is one of the main things that we didn't do, not only for electricity. Okay, we're talking load shedding, water infrastructure, road infrastructure, electricity infrastructure. All those things are falling apart. Good administration. We failed to do that. So in me, I don't know. And if you don't maintain stuff or infrastructure, it becomes even more expensive to fix. Like now we are facing, government tells us they don't have money to fix. Because now we've let things run down. We've run things down and maintaining. And now, because many people are unemployed, even our GDP is less. We get less because people are unemployed. We get less in terms of taxes. And you know that government runs through taxes. You know, your tax. So basically, I think, yeah, that's basically that. But I don't know if the government doesn't turn the corner, our current government, we are in big trouble. We are in big trouble. So I don't know. We are always told that the power lies in us as people, the government of people. So maybe we must exercise our power correctly. Maybe that's one of the solutions. I don't have a solution, but I'm just thinking maybe we must exercise our power rights, because the power is in the hands of the people, the citizens. The people is us, the citizens, you know? So I think if we exercise our power correctly, things can turn. I don't have an answer.
Correctly is also very subjective because what is correct looking at the state of our government and all the political parties, it's also a very contentious topic.
The
And then
instability in our political sphere is the major thing, Lusa.
there needs to be some sort of stability is like
Yes.
much needed. I see that also in the city of Johannesburg. We can't keep going on like this
No, you
and
can't.
expect for things to go well.
You
We
cannot.
really can't.
You
We
cannot.
really can't. And then what would you, in your personal capacity as just a frustrated citizen, which you've also articulated now, what would you suggest? And also as a person who once lived in Soweto, what would you like to see for those township establishments for them to be able to survive, to cushion them during this time?
Government investing in the people, because now what we are faced with, Lusa, and it's so I think it's too much high. People focus on themselves, the people in power that we put in power, self-enrichment, you know. So I think if we can invest in the people, the government is trying, like I've said, that with the new township establishments, your new extensions, they build those houses with solar panels. You know, I think we must now, with the new establishments, depend on an alternative energy sources, not on electricity anymore. You know, alternative energy sources. That's what the new establishment, the townships that are new. The old is done. Like I told you, that our infrastructure is not able to handle load shedding. No. That's why people spend the whole week without electricity. You know, but with the new establishments, and now we hear about the independent power providers. I think government must team up more with those. The government must develop a policy that will enable those independent power providers to operate in space. You know, once they are legalized, then it will be easy for us as citizens to get electricity direct from them, you know, so that that space is also regulated. You know, we know that ESCOM and municipalities, they've been the one that provide electricity to the people. But I'm also thinking, once there's competition or other providers, government will also tighten up. Government will also up the level, up the standard, you know, in terms of making sure that they also provide or ensure that people have electricity. So I think it's in the process. I heard that the Ministry of Energy and Mineral and the Ministry of Energy is developing a policy that will enable or that will regulate alternative or that independent power suppliers to be able to provide electricity to the people. And I think that will kind of solve our load shedding problems.
Yes, I do believe that competition will also
Yes.
keep them on their toes so
Yes.
that they can function better,
Yes.
honestly.
Yes.
And everything is for the betterment of everyone, because there's a lot of greed that takes place in the government entities. So maybe privatizing and
Yes.
competition will get us somewhere.
Yes. Yes.
Somewhere. Okay, we've come to the end of our interview. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, your opinions, and yeah, you know how basically I really do appreciate it, and
Thank you
I
so
enjoyed
much,
this
Lisa,
thoroughly.
for choosing me to do this.
This marks the end of our episode. We trust that you will join us for the next one. Bye.